What's going on, everybody? Good evening. This is Late Night Crypto Talk. I'll get started in just a second. How you doing, Lolita? What's going on, Ryan? Mr. Robinson, what's happening? What's going on, Mr. Martin? Late Night Crypto Talk. Never a dull day. How you doing, Bill? You were just listening to my partner. Who was that? Who's my partner that you were listening to? Hello, Hanicia. Good evening, Usman. Good evening, Steve. Jared? Do you mean Jairus? Jairus Coleman? I hear that, Mr. Martin. Good evening, Louis. Today is Tuesday. Here in California, we're having Storm Watch, Winter Watch 2018. Some trash cans have been kicked over. Some dogs got their feet wet. Yeah, state of emergency in California because it's raining. On the real, though, we actually had some tragedy here in the rain. Because of all the fires, it's created a lot of mudslides. So homes have been washed off their foundation. So we pray for those families that are victims of the floods. Sometimes it does rain in sunny California. All right, so let's go ahead and get things started and kicked off here. Never a dull day in the crypto world. You know, I just said it this morning. I did a special, The Secret, Facebook Live on December, I think it was the 30th or the 29th. And we also talked about New Year's resolutions. And we talked about that you need to focus on the goal and not the task. Focus on the goal. Because during the course of the year, the task, which means the job you're doing, whatever you're doing to make your goal a reality, may change. What you start off with in the new year may not be how you end. And 2017 surely was that for myself and my business partners. We had absolutely no idea. It wasn't on the radar screen. It wasn't even a thought process that we would end 2017 in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. We had no, in fact, I had the opposite. I was starting off the year as vice president of sales and marketing for a network marketing company. I had absolutely no idea where I would end up with. But I never lost track of the goal. I stayed focused to my goal. And when you keep your eye on the goal, you know, the vehicles that you're in can change. And you have to be able to adjust and adapt to the changes when you start getting bumped, when you start getting nudged around. You got to be able, sometimes you don't need to resist to it. You know, that's why I put a whole lot more faith in God now than I did before. Walk by faith. And here we are, what is it, day 9? 9 days in. Things that I didn't even think of, that were not on my radar screen 9 days ago, is now going to help to achieve that goal and that focus. Because I had an open mind for new things and new ideas, and to be prepared for when things happen. I also stated that 2017 was like Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Because the cryptocurrency industry and the Bitcoin rise of it in 2017 gave a lot of the average people new hope that they can indeed achieve their dreams and goals, but doing so through the crypto space. And that 2018, however, will be like episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. the banking systems, the governments, those in control, and those who have a vested interest in the status quo would fight back. And oh, are they coming out full force. So what I want to highlight tonight, because I got a presentation coming up, so I can't be very long, I'm going to talk about one of those foes, one of those people. I call them stormtroopers now. Last year I was calling them Agent Smiths, you know, guardians of the Matrix. This year I'm calling them stormtroopers or guardians of the empire. And one of the biggest ones, Jamie Dimon, the GOAT, greatest of all time in the banking world, in the banking industry. He's the GOAT, CEO and chairman of the largest bank in the United States, therefore the world, JPMorgan. And he had some comments last September that shook up the crypto world by stating that Bitcoin was a fraud, it's a scam, it's a Ponzi. You're stupid to be involved. Somebody's going to get killed over it. And I'll fire anybody that works for me that's involved in trading in crypto. We call it, at the same time, China banned all exchanges. And we called that the China and the Diamond Dip, when Bitcoin went from 5,000 down to 2,900 almost overnight. 2 days later, though, he bought up the most Bitcoin reserves and assets on the Swedish exchange, meaning not him, his organization did. And he ended up getting sued because they called it market manipulation. They said he said all of those things to affect the market, to cause it to drop, and then bought the dip. He got sued for that, and he lost. Had to pay a huge fine because of it. Well, he's back in the news. Now, let me get the link to this article and put it in the chat box, so you can read along, or you can just listen in the background. So let me get back to that article here. All right. JPMorgan's Jamie Dimon regrets his Bitcoin is a fraud statement. Jamie Dimon, chair of JPMorgan Chase, was once again asked about his thoughts on Bitcoin. In a wide-ranging interview on Fox Business, Mr. Dimon was given a few of his notable quotes back to him and asked to assess his present feelings. It appears he softened a little on the world's most popular cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, after once referring to it as a fraud. So, if you're looking at the article, I like this one. I got to copy this and use this. It's got a picture of Dimon, right, with Bitcoins in his eyes. And it says, first they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they attack you, then they buy Bitcoin. I like that. That's true. Jamie Dimon warms to Bitcoin. It says, chairman of JPMorgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, sat down for a televised interview with Fox Business Network's Maria Bartiromo for a segment of her eponymous Mornings with Maria. The two discussed recent overhaul of the U.S. tax structure and its corporate rate, the economy, and healthcare. They were gathered at the West End St. Francis in San Francisco for the 36th annual JPMorgan Healthcare Conference, which runs through Thursday and included a keynote by Bill Gates. Miss Bartiromo, 50, I don't know why they need to put her name in there, or her age in there, asked also about Mr. Dimon's comments concerning Mr. Trump being a one-term president. The banker, who turned 62 in March, I guess maybe age, because age does make a difference for those that's getting into the crypto space and understanding it and accepting it. The older you are, they're most resistant to it. I guess that's why, I don't know. So the banker acknowledged it wasn't his place to have made that statement and wished to instead focus on policy. Okay. Playfully, Ms. Bartiromo queried the famous executive, about speculation Oprah Winfrey could run for the American presidency, and he politely declined to comment. So he's minding his tongue now. He's not so loose with the lips. Dressed down in sports coat, no tie, Mr. Dimon seemed poised to have a little fun. Continuing her line of questioning on his past statements, she turned to Bitcoin. Now, there's an image here that shows Jamie Dimon. It says, JPMorgan CEO Jamie Dimon said, "You're wasting your time with Bitcoin." Yet, JPMorgan's Bitcoin alternative patent was rejected 175 times. Says one thing publicly, but does something completely different behind the scenes. Miss Bartiromo, who carries the distinction of having a Joey Ramone song written in her honor, really? Began, "Let me ask you about Bitcoin, because that was another famous statement you made, that it's a fraud." Mr. Dimon perked up, interrupting, "Which I regret making," he smiled. Punctuating with his left hand, he insisted, "The blockchain is real. You can have crypto dollars and yen and stuff like that. ICOs, you have to look at everyone individually." I agree with that statement. "The Bitcoin was always, to me, was what the governments are going to feel about Bitcoin when it gets really big. I just have a different opinion from other people. I am just not that interested that much in the subject at all." Yet he kept talking about it all last year. He waved away with his right hand, so I'll leave that to everybody else to figure out what they really want to do with that. The Fox Business host then prompted the banker, "I think it's funny that I just saw a study that 30% of millennials say they'd rather invest in Bitcoin than bonds and stocks." She laughed and smiled. "I don't know," she giggled. Mr. Dimon grinned and looked over his right shoulder incredulously and then laughed, holding up his left hand as a peace sign. "I have a daughter who bought 2 Bitcoins," he said. Miss Bartiromo agreed. "Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Young people are into Bitcoin, so..." And he says, "And my daughter now thinks she's a genius because it went way up." Mr. Dimon smiled. So this is interesting. And here's why. It's not so much... when you hear a statement being made, always look at who's making the statement. And then you want to figure out why. Why the statement? Because Mr. Dimon knows. He's not stupid. He didn't get to where he is off of luck and off of recklessness. Everything he does is planned and executed. Even public statements. Because his words can affect the stock market. It can affect his business. It can affect his shareholders. So he's very calculated on what he says. So when he was talking about Bitcoin, it wasn't off the cuff last year. He had a purpose behind his statements. And you watched actions, not words. And his actions was his company was filing for a patent 175 times for blockchain. His traders bought up all Bitcoin ETF assets in Sweden. Not just a lot of them, all of the most. He was sued for market manipulation on Bitcoin. Yet publicly he's saying, "I really don't care about it. It's a fraud. It's a scam." Yet he's doing something different. With the CME and the CBOE coming out launching their futures in the New York Stock Exchange later this year. Even the number 2 bank, Bank of America, getting positioned. So is Chase Morgan. So with Chase Morgan now making these moves, you have to ask yourself the question, why is Jamie Dimon pivoting? Why is he saying something different now than what he said a couple of months ago? I'll tell you this. I believe Jamie Dimon knows more and understands more about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency than I do. In fact, he's probably an expert on it. He has to be. It's his job. Anything that out there that looks to be a threat to your system, you want to know about. You want to be prepared for. He's been preparing for the last 3-4 years. So don't believe, the hype of what he's talking about right now. I really don't think about it. I don't talk about it. It means nothing. Oh no. When you've got over $6 trillion moving through your bank on a daily basis, you pay attention to this kind of stuff. So I believe that Jamie Dimon is one of the foregrown experts on cryptocurrency and blockchain technology and Bitcoin. Don't let none of this stuff fool you. But he's pivoting. So I'm curious as to why. So let's not listen to what he says. You want to watch very closely over the next couple of days or weeks what he is doing and what JPMorgan Chase is doing in the crypto space for him to pivot like this. Just showing you how to read between the lines. The other article I wanted to get into, but I don't have time, was about Venezuela. We talked about this the other day, that they are creating their own cryptocurrency called the petro coin, backed by their oil reserves. And I was curious on to how they were going to launch it. Because if the government is going to create its own coin, you would think that it would be completely centralized, that they would control the mining of it. They will probably launch it already pre-mined. So when their president said that they were going to have mining, they wasn't specific on that until this article came out. It says over 860,000 Venezuelans registered to mine state-backed cryptocurrency, the petro. So I'm going to save this article for tomorrow morning, because I got a presentation in 30 minutes to get into. But I think this is interesting because it can be a case study for how other countries launch it. I highly doubt Russia, their crypto ruble, I highly doubt they're going to allow their citizens to mine the crypto ruble, the ruble coin. I think it's going to come out pre-mined, centralized, controlled by the government. So curious as to what Venezuela is doing on this. And then that's going to let you see, how's the U.S. going to do it? Is the U.S. going to let the citizens mine it? I doubt that. I think the U.S. will come out with pre-mined the Fed coin. In fact, it's not even going to be mined. I think that they're going to attach the Fed coin to the U.S. dollar and go with a completely cashless society. So all the money in your bank, you won't be pulling out cash anymore. It'll be tied to whatever debit card or mark of the beast, whatever system they want to create, that you can't buy or sell anything without the Fed coin. And you are forced to use it if you want access to your U.S. dollars in the bank. That's what I ultimately think is going to happen. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. But we'll see. But next, we talked about lately ICOs this year. Why? Because myself and a bunch of business partners of mine made a killing the first couple of days of January of 2018. I mean, how would you like to start off the year and you made more than $30,000 without lifting a finger 8 days into the new year? Why? Because one of the ICOs we took advantage of at the end of 2017 came through. Does that mean it happens every time? No. Because when I look back on my performance, and I always stated, even last year, I said, I guarantee you, if you get into this space, somewhere along the way, you're going to lose. You're going to lose money somewhere along the way. It could be because you weren't smart enough or educated in the space enough to notice some trends. It could be that you got involved in something and you didn't know that the intent of the owner was to scam everybody. That's completely out of your control. You might have fell asleep and not watched the charts and saw that a coin got its high and it's about to drop real fast and you weren't there to do your sell order. You woke up too late. That's happened to me before in my own trading, where I was watching the charts. I forgot to put the sell order in. I fell asleep. And right when I was asleep is when the doggone thing dropped. Always happens like that. Or you guys that trade, you're watching it. You think you're smart. It's like, all right, now's the time to buy. And the moment you buy, it drops. That has happened to every single trader. Every single one. That happens to you. So you're going to lose along the way. So I looked at the about 6 ICOs that I invested in between October and November. And out of those 6, I think, this thing, it doesn't take a lot of money. I don't know, I might have done maybe $4,000 or $5,000 worth. And 5 of them, nothing happened. But one of them, it did. And the one that did happen, I made over 30 grand off of. So it's a win situation. But ICOs, you got to be very careful. Because I think like 90% of them out there are frauds and scams. You've got to be able to know how to do your homework and research to find which ones might be profitable for you. And only invest what you can afford to lose. Don't be putting your rent money and your grocery money and getting out a loan on something you don't have no idea about. This month, there's 3 ICOs that my business partners and I are taking advantage of. One I talked about this morning. I'll put a link in the chat box for that later. The other one, I won't even talk about till near the end of the month. Jairus talked about it last night. But the first one was BitConnect X. BitConnect X, which I believe is going to be the largest ICO ever. Why do I believe that? No matter what your own personal feelings are, or the United States rules and regulations and laws are, we're talking about a company that has been around for almost 3 years. A company that had an ICO last January when the market cap was $800,000 and the coin was worth 16 cents. Today, the coin is worth over $430 or so. I got to hit the refresh button again. But it got up to like $450. In other words, if you invested $1,000 in January, that would be worth more than $2.3 million today. And that's when nobody knew what the doggone thing was. Now you add a full year, 1.5 million community strong, that has made money and had nothing but success with the company, where the company did exactly what they said they're going to do. They grew a coin that nobody knew about, that was being stomped on in the early days, to over $400 a coin today. So they learned their lessons, and they're coming out with something that's even better. They don't need anybody outside of the community to be involved. It's going to be the largest ICO ever. What's the problem? The problem is every state in every country has their own rules and regulations. And this is what I've been saying all along at the end of last year about the United States. The United States is not leading the world in this tech space of cryptocurrency. It is not making things easy or friendly for the cryptocurrency space. And that hurts innovation. When other countries are putting their foot forward to be welcoming, to work with, not against the crypto space, then it allows their citizens a chance to create new businesses, to create new technology, to invest in it, to earn new wealth, which means they become better tax-paying citizens because they have more money to pay taxes. And the United States blocks that from happening. Who are they hurting here? They're not hurting these companies. They're hurting the people. Now, in an effort, of course, that you want to be responsible, you want to hold ICOs accountable, you want to protect the citizens from getting scammed. That's all well and good. But what you also end up doing with all the regulations is just like the state of California, which is the worst state to do business in. Businesses flock out of California because of all the rules, regulations, and laws and taxes. So they go to other states. How's that helping California when businesses are leaving? How's it helping the United States when companies decide, we don't want to do business in the United States because your laws are archaic, your rules and regulations are ridiculous, and we don't need you? That's the worst part. When companies are able to say, we don't need America. And that's what kind of happened here with the BitConnect X ICO. The state of Texas came out with a bogus cease and desist order with information that's not even accurate. And they even filed it to the wrong freaking company. But how BitConnect responded was like, you know what? We don't want this bad press. We don't want to deal with this crap. We just won't do business in the state of Texas. We're not here to disrupt. We'll abide by any laws, rules, and regulations that every country has. We just won't do business. And with their ICO coming out, they're saying, you know, definitely we don't want to have any bad press. We don't want to have the people in America screaming bloody murder. We don't need America. So we'll just make sure that Americans are not able to participate until after the ICO is over. So that's what's happening. That's what happened. So the ICO is going forward. The ICO will still be the largest in history, just without United States participation. People in Canada are fine. Mexico are fine. And the rest of the world is participating. You have an opportunity here where American citizens can become freaking wealthy off of this, which means there's more money for them to pay taxes in the system, and they're not able to participate. So who is being hurt here? And who is being protected? So, with that staying, those of you on the BitConnect side, get back to business as normal. Get back to lending. Get back to reinvesting. They've never missed a payment. Every single person is winning with it. So get back to staying focused. And we'll see how the rules play out. There's things that we can control, and there's things that you cannot control. There's plenty of other ICOs. Plenty of other ICOs to get involved in. In fact, I mentioned one this morning, and I will put the link to it right now. Well, let me pull it up in the chat box that we're excited about. And there's going to be a second one. So instead of me being able to do 3 this month, I'll end up doing 2. All right. And then we keep moving forward. There's plenty of other projects for us to be involved in as well. So for those of you, in fact, I am doing a BitConnect presentation in 20 minutes. So you got to send me a private message if you want a link to that. I am doing a presentation. And we're getting prepared for an education business. Here's the one thing that is lacking severely, that is much, much needed. Education in the crypto space. The reason why most people would lose money in this space is because they lack the education and knowledge on how to maneuver around, how to see things, how to avoid things. So we are putting something together so that you guys can get some education and knowledge behind you and under your belt. The people that I work with, all the people close to me in our community, it's much easier for us to move forward and take advantage of things when we're educated rather than spending 90% of our time answering this question. What's a Bitcoin? How do I get it signed up for an exchange? What is Coinbase? How do I buy Ripple? What is a wallet? What is blockchain? Can you be my mentor and hold my hand through this? We don't have time for that. So instead, we're going to direct you to a source where you can get all that information, but you got to pay for it. Just like going to college. This is information and knowledge that's going to change your life. I spent 3 months going through education, and that knowledge has changed my life. So you got to pay for it. Nothing's free. But just be on the lookout, because we'll be talking about that more over the next couple of weeks and month or so. I am creating a list, so you got to send me a private message if you want to be on that list. So if you want to be on my presentation tonight, that is a BitConnect presentation that starts in 15 minutes. Actually, as soon as I hang up here, I'm going to open up the link for it. But you got to send me a message if you want the link. Those of you who've already been on that before, the link's the same. It blows my mind. The same people ask me the same question every single week. It's the same doggone link. It doesn't change. And you're absolutely right, Lashana. It's worth it. That knowledge has made me 6 figures. Had I not done it, I'd be on a job right now. So with that, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you learned something tonight. See you all. That's going to be on my presentation soon. And then next, I already know one topic will be Venezuela for tomorrow morning. for a crypto talk, early morning crypto talk. But back to business as usual. Now that we got this all, I wish they never did come out with a BitConnect X ICO. At least not for a couple of months. Got everybody off focus. Let's get back to focus. Started off 2018 and make some money. Serious money. With that, thank you guys for joining. Bitcoin Brandon out. See you soon. Good night. God bless. Bye-bye.